AI is not the breakthrough, AI is the mirror. Revenue is everyone's priority, but no one truly owns it end to end. And this is exactly why no one is accountable when it's lost. A deal can look active and still be dead. Intelligent CRM are running in the background, and still revenue misses the quota. Why? Because teams are still rewarded for activity even when there is no evidence the opportunity is getting to close. The real test was whether leadership was ready to act on what became visible. Optimization speed up existing logic, transformation rewrite logic. Optimization asks how we do it faster, transformation asks why are we doing it this way at all. It asks what changes when businesses stop treating revenue as a sales number and start treating it as a system of decisions that create, protect, expand or destroy value. Because AI doesn't only expose slow decisions, it exposes outdated thinking. There are three questions. First, how do businesses need to think differently about revenue? Second, how is AI changing the way value is created? And there is a third question. Where can new revenue streams come from? Are we using AI to make the old revenue model faster, or are we using it to create new revenue streams the old model could not see? Season 1 of AI for Sales Edge was about what AI makes visible inside the operating reality of revenue. When you look closely at how revenue actually moves through a business, a pattern starts to appear. Execution slows before the revenue results show the damage. Decisions clarity start to disappear before leadership admits there is a problem. Opportunities can still look active in the system even after momentum has already gone. That is what I wanted to understand this season. At what point does a business actually start losing revenue? By the time the quarter is missed, the forecast is adjusted, or the deal is marked lost, the damage has usually already happened. The real loss starts earlier. It starts when risk is visible but no one acts. The next move gets discussed, but no one owns it. Responsibility moves between functions until the decision is simply not made. Season 1 made one thing very clear. Most organizations lose revenue because important decisions are made too late, made without enough evidence, or left sitting between functions with no clear owner. That becomes expensive quickly. Forecast credibility takes a hit, pipeline gets inflated, revenue leakage starts to look normal, and this is where AI changed the conversation. AI doesn't fix revenue. It exposes where the business is already losing it, earlier, faster, and with less room to hide. Season 1 brought the pattern into focus. It was not about comfort, it was about clarity. And across the season, 4 patterns kept repeating. Different businesses, different operating models, different leadership behaviors, same underlying breakdown. Now, the first pattern was this. Revenue is everyone's priority, but no one truly owns it end to end. And this is exactly why no one is accountable when it's lost. Revenue moves across sales, marketing, customer success, finance, legal, delivery. Each function sees part of the truth. On paper, that looks structured. In reality, it often creates decision gaps. Because revenue doesn't move neatly through one function. It moves across all of them. And when the system is not designed around the clear decision authority, every function can see a piece of truth, but the business still hasn't made the commercial call. Here is now how that shows up. A deal slows down. The account executive reads it as a pricing pressure. Sales manager sees that the next step is weak. RevOps notice the stage has been open too long without buyer confirmed progress. Legal flags terms that may slow the contract. Product or delivery question whether the scope can be delivered as a promise. The executive sponsor sees that the real buyer may not be fully committed. Everyone is seeing something useful, but the commercial call is still missing. The team has to decide whether to restructure the deal, escalate and move it out of commit, change the commercial terms, bring in different executive, or simply walk away. That's where revenue starts leaking. Because no one had clear authority to make the call. So leadership often adds pressure instead of asking where the decision got stuck. Pipeline target get pushed higher, activity expectation increase, extra review are added, updated become more frequent, but very few people stop and ask where the decision chain actually break. Who had the authority to act when risk become visible? And why did the deal stay alive in the system after the buyer had already gone quiet? This is the part most organizations never design properly, because designing it for it creates conflict. It forced leadership to define who has authority, who must approve, who can escalate, who has the right to challenge, and who owns the consequence. The clarity changed power. So instead, many businesses keep things vague, and revenue keeps leaking. AI made this easier to see. It shows deals that stall repeatedly at the same stage, opportunities that stay active even when a buyer evidence is weak, accounts that go quiet after internal approvals, renewal that are lost long before they're officially market risk. AI doesn't ask who is busy. It shows where ownership is unclear. And that is uncomfortable for leaders, because it reveals whether the organization is actually designed to decide. Now, the second pattern was just as consistent. Teams are busy, dashboards are full, intelligence CRM are running in the background, and still revenue misses the quota. Why? Because teams are still rewarded for activity even when there is no evidence the opportunity is getting to close. Inside organization, this shows up every day. Sales teams are praised for pipeline size. Managers reviews deals, but not always the decision behind them. Leadership meeting focus on what is reported, not always what is real. Report shows next steps and stage changes, but not whether those updates are supported by evidence. But the more important question is often missing. Is there real evidence that the deal is becoming more likely to close? A deal can look active and still be dead. A renewal can look fine and already be politically lost. Forecast can look healthy while sitting on opportunity that nobody has truly qualified under pressure. AI disrupted this illusion, not by replacing people, by forcing better questions. A meeting only matters if it moves the decision. Pipeline only matters if there is evidence behind it. An opportunity update only matters if it reflects what is happening with the buyer, not just what the team hopes will happen. This is where silence becomes visible. And silence is expensive. It usually means decision is stuck, ownership is unclear, and the risk is already present, even if the CRM still looks healthy. That tells you something important about the system. It's measuring activity more closely than decision movement. And when that happens, team can feel productive while revenue is already slipping underneath them. The third pattern may be the most important ones. AI didn't create the leadership gap. It made the gap harder to ignore. When AI surfaced stalled decisions, inconsistent follow-ups, unclear ownership, delayed escalation, and repeated exceptions, AI didn't create chaos. It revealed it. Leaders responded in different ways. Some leaned into visibility. They asked harder questions. They clarify ownership. They redesigned the escalation path. They look at how decisions were actually being made under pressure. Others resisted. They questioned the data. They delayed adoption. They reframed exposure as a noise. They treated the signal as the problem instead of looking at the system underneath it. The difference mattered. Because the real test was never whether AI could surface more information. It can. The real test was whether leadership was ready to act on what became visible. The strongest teams keep asking, why do we operate this way? Who actually owns this outcome? What are we rewarding? What are we tolerating? Where does authority disappear when pressure increases? And they were willing to say something many organizations avoid saying. This is not about tools. This is how we have designed decisions. And we need to fix that. That's why AI didn't demand transformation. It removed excuses. Now the fourth pattern was the gap between optimization and real transformation. Many organizations improved the surface. Workflows become faster, hands-off look cleaner, dashboards improved, automation increased, reporting became more polished. Efficiency improved, but revenue didn't. Because the underlying logic stayed the same. The same decisions were still unclear. The same ownership gap remained. The same escalation path broke under pressure. The same hard questions arrived too late. And that's the difference. Optimization speed up existing logic. Transformation rewrite logic. Optimization asks how we do it faster. Transformation asks why are we doing it this way at all? And that question is much harder. Because transformation is not about making the current system more polished. It's about changing how choices are made. Who decide, when they decide, based on what signals, with what authority, and what happens when pressure hits. Optimization make organizations feel modern, transformation make them uncomfortable. And season 1 showed that many organizations stop at optimization because it feels safe. But safety doesn't stabilize revenue. Redesign does. By the end of season 1, the pattern was clear. AI is not the breakthrough. AI is the mirror. It shows where revenue starts leaking before the number admits it. And what is exposed across the season was this. Revenue gets lost when decision ownership is unclear. Escalation becomes emotional. Responsibility gets passed across functions. Leadership reward activity even when it doesn't change the commercial outcome. That goes far beyond sales. Sales may carry visible failure. Sales may absorb the pressure of the missed quota. Sales may be the team asked to explain the gap. But sales doesn't control the full revenue system. And yet, many organizations still review revenue as if one team owns the outcome. That mismatch is where forecast credibility slips. This is where pipeline gets inflated. That's where revenue leakage becomes normal. And season 1 was really about authority. Who owns the call? Who has the right to act? What happens when risk appears and no one is clearly responsible for the next move? People can be working hard and revenue can still slip. That happens when decisions stay without a real owner. And this is what season 1 made visible. But seeing the pattern is only the first step. Season 2 turns to what serious leaders do next. Not only how they make decisions, but in how they think about revenue, value creation, and growth in the age of AI. Season 1 showed where revenue leaks, when decision ownership is unclear. But this is only the first layer. Season 2 goes deeper. It asks what changes when businesses stop treating revenue as a sales number and start treating it as a system of decisions that create, protect, expand, or destroy value. Because AI doesn't only expose slow decisions. It exposes outdated thinking. It shows when a business is still managing the number after the real revenue decisions have already been made. The forecast, the pipeline, the quota, the KPI, those are important. But they are where revenue shows up late. The real work happens earlier, in the decision the business makes about what to sell, which customer to grow, which risk to act on, which signal to trust, and which behavior to reward. Take pipeline as an example. If the KPI says create 4 times pipeline coverage, people will protect what the KPI rewards, even if that means building a pipeline that is unrealistic. Season 2 asks what changes when the leaders reward the truth earlier, even the ugly truth. Because a smaller realistic pipeline may create more revenue than the bigger one that was never going to close. That is the different way of thinking about revenue. You're not managing revenue. You're managing the decisions that creates it. And those are not the same thing. And this is where AI becomes more important. AI can help leaders see the truth earlier, but only if the business is designed to act on what it sees. That's why Season 2 exists. Not to make the old revenue model faster, but to ask whether the old revenue model still makes sense when AI can show new signals, new risk, a new way to create value. Now, what to expect in Season 2? In Season 2, we move deeper asking harder questions. The focus becomes the logic of revenue and value creation. There are 3 questions Season 2 will keep coming back to. First, how do businesses need to think differently about revenue? Not as a number owned by sales, not only as a forecast, pipeline, quota, or target, but as a system of decisions made across the business. Second, how is AI changing the way value is created? For example, a service business may think AI is only there to help consultants work faster. But Season 2 asks a different question. Can that expertise become a diagnostic product? Can customer pattern become an insight layer? Can repeated advisory work become a scalable decision system? That's the difference between using AI for efficiency and using AI to create new revenue. And there is a third question. Where can new revenue streams come from? Not only from the sales team selling faster. AI can help turn cost centers into revenue engine. Not because every department suddenly becomes sales. No, that's the wrong interpretation. The new value is that every department can create revenue signals, and leadership needs a decision system to turn those signals into revenue. A call center can hear buying intent before sales does. Support teams can turn repeated customer pain into paid solutions. Customer success can see expansion potential before the renewal conversation starts. Managers can drive margin instead of only hosting alignment calls and pushing slides. AI gives the business the signals, but the revenue decision system turns those signals into action, ownership, and value. That's the deeper work of Season 2. Season 1 shows the pattern and why authority is the first layer needed to stabilize revenue. And Season 2 goes into the logic underneath those patterns. How AI is forcing leaders to rethink revenue, value creation, and new source of growth. That is the conversation Season 2 opens. Are we using AI to make the old revenue model faster, or are we using it to create new revenue streams the old model could not see? But before Season 2 begins, there is one question every revenue leader should ask. Are we still using old revenue logic when AI is showing new ways to create value? And start with the 5 checks. Do we know where value is actually created in our revenue system? Do we know which decision protect the value? Do we know when revenue should be pursued, restructured, expanded, or stopped? Do our team understand the difference between activity, revenue, and value? And when AI surfaces risk, opportunity, or unmet customer needs earlier, do we have the logic and authority to act on it? If those answers are vague, the issue is not only execution. It's a business logic. And that's where Season 2 begins. Season 1 brought one thing into focus. Revenue becomes more stable when business know where revenue is leaking, decision authority is clear, and the business know what actions should follow. That's what AI exposed. The logic underneath revenue. How value is created, how risk is understood, how decisions are owned, how the business acts when the signal becomes visible, and how AI can open new ways to create value and turn those values into revenue. Season 2 go deeper. It asks what changes when business stopped treating revenue as a sales number and started thinking the logic of revenue, value creation, and new growth. Season 2 begins in October 2026. I'm Jelena, and this is AI for Sales Edge. Real stories, real results, no fluff.